Hey everybody, welcome back to Sideline Shenanigans. I'm your host, Ryan Jones. Today we have Coach Austin Epple from LaPorte High School. Coach, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brian.
Sure thing. So, Coach, how would you describe your coaching philosophy?
So we're going to prepare with violence, and we're going to execute with passion. We do everything we do. Uh, we're doing violently, from everything from the tugs to the sled to first reaction steps to downhill runs to everything we do. We're trying to do with violence, and then as a player and as a coach, the only way I've known how to do this is to execute it with passion, right? So if you're all in and you're enthusiastic, that stuff's contagious and it'll bleed out. And then when you're passionate, good things happen.
What core values guide your coaching decisions at LaPorte?
Um, well. I think a lot of it has to do with I'm an aggressive guy by nature. So, I want to win the rep. I want to win the down. I want to win the series. I want to win the game. So I try
Mhm.
to do everything I can to put ourselves in the best position possible. A lot of that goes to an aggressive nature, again, because that's who I am as a person. I try to bleed who I am into how I coach.
Okay, excellent. Who has had the biggest impact on your coaching style?
Um, Jeez, yeah, these are good questions. Um, a lot of what I do is um on the field, off the field, with the kids. A lot of it is what I've learned from my coaches I had in high school, and as well as in college. A lot of how I approach the game um comes from my experiences in college and the staff I had there at Loras College. So um, I'd say this a lot. My college coaches really have influenced how I am as a coach, because that was the first time my first foray into coaching was actually there. I tore my ACL twice, so I was able to help coach the position group I was
Mhm.
in during my rehab for ACL. So
So, do you script your plays or rely more on gut feelings?
we script everything. We script everything. So when you get into, like, Muhammad Ali has a great quote: "Everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth." Right? So
Mhm.
um, we script everything. We script the opening series. We script third downs. We script second downs. We script everything. We script defensive stuff too. We get one look. We like the look. This is what we're going to run at this time. Hyper organization is one of the things that I really pride myself on and pride our program on. Because I think if you can plan for everything, you can be prepared for everything. So, I think it's, obviously when it's 4th and 1 in ball game, right? You
Mhm.
got to go with your gut. You got to go with what you think is going to happen on the field in all facets, right? Um, it's that scenario that you've had since you were a kid. It's first and goal or fourth and goal or whatever it is, and you either need to stop or you need to score, and you just got to go with what your kids can do well and what you have prepared for and what you think they can do. In those situations, it's not the time to go draw something up. You got to go back into your identity and what makes you you, so you can be successful.
Excellent, coach. Do you coach all players the same way or adapt based on their personality?
I try to. Um, I try to. I try to coach each player individually, because I think if you can't, there's no cookie cutter way to coach the same kid. And we're talking about kids here. Like, we're not talking
Mhm.
about players in Madden. We're not talking about hypothetical, people. This is like real human being kids, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. And
Mhm.
um, you know, I'd say the most stubborn you are in your life is when you're that age, and the most temperamental and the most sensitive and the most courageous and the most, I mean, that's one of the reasons why the military allows 18-year-olds to go serve, because that's
Mhm.
who the most, intense you're ever going to be in your whole life is right then and there. So I try to adapt to who I'm talking to. I try to read the room. If I got a couple high functioning guys, very high speed guys that, I can give a little more to, and I don't have to spoon feed as much. But there's quite a few guys that we have in our locker room right now that you have to really talk to them and break it down and remind them and coax them and remind them and coax them and remind them and remind them and remind them, and eventually something will stick. But if you were to try to talk to one of those guys that need more attention the same way that you talk to your high speed, high motivated guys, you're not going to be successful as a coach.
Mm-hmm. So, what makes coaching the LaPorte Slicers special to you?
There's a lot of things. I mean, there's a lot of things. If you've ever been to LaPorte on a Friday night, Kiwanis Field Stadium, there's magic in that building. From the tunnel to the chants on the sideline to the atmosphere. Standing room only. I've been fortunate enough to grow up in this program. I went to school at LaPorte. I graduated from LaPorte. I played at LaPorte. And not only that, I was fortunate enough to watch some of the biggest moments in LaPorte Slicer football history and recent modern history happen on our field, and appreciate those things. In 2006, the regional championship against Crown Point, I was in sixth grade. My mom, it was a double rain delay. The game lasted like 4.5 hours or something. It didn't end till like 11 o'clock. Lightning struck twice. There was 2 lightning delays. It was pouring. It was like 40 degrees outside, and that was when we had grass. So it was like the field was a slop, and my mom was cold and she wanted to go home, so she made me and my brothers go home with her because I was 12. I couldn't stay. So we ended up going home, and I let my mom let me stay up and listen to the rest of the game on the radio. And I got to hear the roar of the crowd when Darren Kincaid made the game-winning sack to send us to our first semi-state run against Carmel that year. In 2014, when we had that magical run, we had a 4-5 season. I was in college in 2014, so I was at Ball State, and I was able to go down for the state game at Lucas Oil Stadium. And when we got down there was a bunch of LaPorte plates, 46 sticker on the plate, like going down to Indy on 65. And we finally got down there and into the stadium, and literally just looking across the stadium, Cathedral was on one side, and they're from Indy and they go to state all the time. It wasn't that special to them, but it was absolutely special to us. It was a sea of orange. The entire city of LaPorte was there. When I was little and in middle school playing ball, businesses, mom and pop shops that we used to have, LaPorte Sporting Goods, and the boot store that we had downtown, and a bunch of other little mom and pop shops used to put up these big orange signs that said "Close for the game, go Slicers." And that hometown Friday Night Light feel, the amount of passion that these kids have and the community has for LaPorte sports, specifically LaPorte football, LaPorte baseball, it makes it special. And to be the head of the snake, if you will, of this operation is an honor, and it is truly humbling. And that's what makes it special. Being a part of it, having grown up in the fabric of this culture is something that I take a lot of pride in every day.
So, how much input do players have in decisions or strategies?
It's different now than it used to be. Back in the day, and I say back in the day, like I'm old, but like, when I was playing, Coach James, Coach Schellinger, they didn't really care to hear what we had to say on quite a lot of things, because, like our football IQ isn't very high, right? And a lot of our experiences back then, like us with respect to, first off, none of us had any experience calling plays or coaching or anything. You know what I mean? You don't know what you don't know when you're in it, when you're playing. You just don't. So, obviously there was a lot more inherent trust then than there is now. Now, you get Monday morning quarterbacked by your own people sometimes. So, just having a reason why you do the things that you do. I ask for input, from players for, a lot of things. Like I ask them, is this working? Is that working? Do we like this? Do we not like this? And why? And I will give them, I like the ownership they have in the team to ask them those questions. So I want that feedback, right? And to me, it makes me feel like they feel like they're a part of the decision-making process. And then therefore they'll buy in more. So with respect to that, I think that I'm more open in that regard. But as far as like, ball game on the line, I'm not going to look at a kid and say, all right, this is what we got. Now, if a kid comes to me and says, hey, I know we can score on this, and this is why, and gives me an intelligent reason, and I can go to look at our sideline film and see exactly what he's seeing, and I know that he's giving me an informed decision, then yeah, I'll put the keys in I'll give him the keys to the car, so to speak, in that regard. Obviously, if you don't listen to your people who are out there doing it, you're kind of blind to half the game. So, um, I like to think I'm kind of in the middle on that.
Okay, coach. What's the one drill you never ever skip in practice?
Well, we have a couple different ones that we really like. Um, on the defensive side of the ball, that's where I grew up and made a lot of my bones. We don't ever skip tackle circuit. We do tackle circuit every day. Lots of different variations of tackle circuit, tackle circuit, tackle circuit, tackle circuit. We do that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
On the offensive side of the ball, there's the EDD drills, the everyday drills that we don't ever skip. So, offensive line does stance and starts, tailbacks do ball security, all the stuff that you have to do every single day. Um, the on the defensive side of the ball, there's the three in LaPorte, we have the three P's. It's pursuit, passion, punishment. So we hit hard, we pursue the football aggressively, and we have to finish. We got to finish, got to get them on the ground. So I'd say tackle circuit's one that kids do never get out of.
Yeah. So, coach, how would you define, well, not define, but describe the identity of this year's LaPorte squad?
You know, um, that's a question I've asked myself quite a bit this offseason. High school is not like college in the fact that a lot of these kids are playing other sports and doing other things. They're going to play, club basketball. They're going to play summer baseball. They're kids, and a lot of these kids aren't going to do this ever again after high school. So a lot of these kids are, you're not, you're trying to get the culture of a high school or a college program in your high school program, right? But you have to do it in ways that make sense and do it in ways that the kids can understand. Asking the kids to forget basketball and baseball would be stupid. You're going to lose that battle 9 times out of 10 because it's easier to go play basketball in an air conditioned gym than it is to go hit. And it's easier to go stand in an outfield than it is to go sweat your, butt off on a football field. So, um, being able to, with all of that in mind, what I've reflected upon is, we were very young last year, and we had to grow up fast, and
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, um, we made a lot of mistakes, and that's what young teams do. Last year's team, I don't necessarily know, developed an identity, one that would, you know it had an identity, but it wasn't one that you would like write in the history books about. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So this team is a little bit of a hodgepodge of that and this. So I don't. It's really early to tell. Um, I like to think we have a lot more experience than we did last year. So I think this team's going to be mean. Um, Hopefully, unforgiving and unrelenting, and really just excited, and our emphasis this year is going to be on the ability to execute. And that was really what held us back all the year last year. We were 1 inch here, 2 inches there, one step there, a missed tackle here, a missed block there, and we'd had 9 or 10 guys doing their job, but one guy didn't. And, football's the ultimate team game. You can't have that.
So, how do you get underclassmen to buy into the program early?
That is the age old question, isn't it? High school sports.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I think as far as underclassmen are concerned, especially this generation of underclassmen, they, in my experience, are extremely instant gratification driven. You got to give them wins. You got to give them quick wins. You got to make it seem like they're doing something, even though they're not. And that can be exhausting, to celebrate things that, 5, 10 years ago, you wouldn't necessarily celebrate. It's just like an expectation, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you're battling, um, the online culture of I post, I get likes, I do this, I win. If I don't win, I'm just not going to play. Like if you're constantly, entertaining all of those negatives, you're never going to find those positive moments. So celebrating those seems to help. Um, and growth, really getting the underclassmen, especially the kids that might not be your high speed guys, your blue chip guys, the guys that
Mhm.
that you can put in when the ball game's on the line, that they might turn into that, by the time they're a senior. But when they're a sophomore and they're undersized and they're underdeveloped, um, you have to celebrate little things along the
Yeah.
way. And I think as long as they trust you and you're real with them and you're honest with them and you tell them, like, listen, if you're expecting to go out there and be the next Heisman winning high school football player, like, maybe that's not in the cards right now. But if you do one little thing every single day and progress to that, eventually you might get there.
All right, Coach. So let's look at LaPorte's schedule. So you got New Prairie, who just hired a new coach, which
Hmm.
Coach O'Shea is pretty decent.
Yep.
Um, Lowell, don't know much about them, but new coach.
Yep.
Valpo,
Lowell has New Prairie's old coach.
yeah, yeah, and Chester, Valpo, Chesterton, Lake Central. Now, it's where it gets kind of tough
Yeah.
here. You got Maryville, Crown Point, Michigan City, and Portage.
Yep.
That's a hell of a way to end the season, but yeah,
There's not an easy game on our schedule.
no.
There's not. And um, our non-con schedule, I like to think, really prepares us for some of the rigors of the DAC, especially now. You know, the way the DAC has developed, like you said, Maryville, Michigan City, Crown Point, Portage. There's not a bad team in the DAC either. Um,
Mhm.
every single team in the DAC is going to fight you tooth and nail. The DAC stands for dead after contact, so it is literally a grind from the first snap to the final whistle every single week. It can be any given day. There are games in which you can outperform. There are games in which you can underperform, and you have to prepare to win them all anyway. And that's exactly our approach at LaPorte, despite what on paper looks to be an insurmountable schedule, right? um Out like Crown Point last year, the juggernaut that the season that they hadn't turned the ball over in a first half of a football game all season. They had not thrown a pick all season, and in the first two series of the game, we go 3-and-out and we force an interception against us. So that's DAC football. Anything
Mhm.
can happen on any given day.
Right. So, which team would you say is the biggest challenge on your schedule?
Like I said, every game is a challenge, I'd say. Some games have more uh, uh, aura, I guess, than others. Um, our kids get really excited to play New Prairie. It's county rival. We play for the jug. It's this whole big thing that really wasn't a thing, and now it's a thing. So it's like keeping the kids focused on that is a challenge that week. Keeping the main thing is hard that week. Because they know each other. They grow up in the same community. They all play Pop Warner together. Um, and they decided to go to the school to the east, and the other half went to the school to the west, and that's really kind of how it boiled down. And so that game is tough for a lot of different reasons. It's good football. New Prairie's all has been great, good, really good for the last several years. Lowell is a slugfest, has since we put them on our schedule. Um, I think 3 years we've played Lowell, we've been up or tied at halftime, and or within one score at halftime, and they've beaten us by one or two scores, um, down the stretch in the fourth, because they just wore us down. They're just a hard-nosed, tough Lowell football. That's exactly what their identity is, and that's what they preach to their kids, and they're really good at it. When you get into Valpo, Chesterton, Lake Central, Maryville, Crown Point, that's the heart of the DAC schedule for us. We really don't have another rivalry game until Michigan City comes around. And again, that's the same issue as New Prairies. The kids, the communities are intertwined. Our kids go to Michigan City to shop. Their kids come to LaPorte to eat and do whatever else. So like they know each other. They grew up together.
Yeah.
So keeping today's kids focused on what the mission is the biggest, I think, challenge all of us football coaches have right now. Like, listen, I don't care what he posted on Instagram about you. Go prepare. Go get ready to win.
Yeah, Coach. So, as you know, the new transfer rule has taken effect as of a couple days ago. What, like, as I know, LaPorte's a big school, but how do you think it will affect LaPorte?
I think there's a lot of misinterpretation and misinformation about what this rule actually is. It's not an open transfer portal. You don't go to a pool. The coaches can't talk to you. It's not even close to what is happening in the NCAA. Essentially, the kid has an opportunity to move schools within his first 6 semesters of high school, and then in semester 7, if he transfers, like you're going to sit 30 days. Like you can't just transfer for your senior year. So I think that's a deterrent. I think the IHSA, did the best they could with what they had, with the legislation coming down on the state and everyone else and all the other pressure that was coming around. I think they made the correct decision in trying to get out ahead of it. I don't necessarily think that I'm going to spend a great deal of time worrying about who's coming in and who's coming out because I can't go out and look for them anyway.
Right.
There's some coaches that do, and those coaches really, they kind of put pressure on us that do the right things right and try to play the game the right way, the way it's supposed to be played. We all want to win, but like at what cost, right? If we just allow kids to just go when the getting's tough, what are we teaching them about life? If we allow kids to make grown-up decisions when they're 16 years old and they're not able to make those grown-up decisions without understanding the totality of the ramifications of those decisions, to when, if you got an issue with a teacher or a coach or a school or a philosophy and you're just like, you know what, I'm out. Like none of this in the NCAA is going to get any better anytime soon. And they're going to carry that running to every other aspect of their life. So, LaPorte, I don't think it's going to be an issue. I really don't, because our kids, the kids that we have, the kids that are on our roster want to be here. They want to play for us. They want to wear the orange and black. They want to be a part of what we have here at Kiwanis. And, if we lose some kids along the way, we lose some kids along the way. We haven't had an issue with that, knock on wood. I don't anticipate us having an issue with that. Part of that is geography too. We're kind of isolated geographically from the only other schools that are like within relative reasonable driving distance for a family that's trying to put food on the table and do everything else is New Prairie and Michigan City. And we've had kids go from New Prairie to Michigan City to Westville to LaPorte since the dawn of time. That's happened. Like, so it's nothing as of right now is new in that regard.
All right, Coach. So here's my favorite part of the show personally. This is where you get to laugh, relax. The shenanigans. Who would you say the funniest guy in the Slicers locker room is?
Oh wow, that's a tough question. Like I got a couple coaches that are pretty hilarious. Rob Schellinger is funny in his own way. He's like a character on The Office. He's super dry and deadpan and says what he thinks and just does it in a way that just makes you giggle. I'd say as far as the kids go, they're all we have a bunch of guys that I would consider clowns. We had a kid named his name is Rogelio, but his name is Rojo, and that's all Rojo does is try to make people laugh and do dumb stuff. I'd say he'd be right up there with anyone else.
All right, Coach. So, what's the weirdest thing you've found in a locker, a player's locker?
Um, well, it it wasn't found in there like organically, but we ordered a flag, or sorry, a canopy top tent. And this canopy top tent, it was from the National Guard. They purchased it. We did a deal. They did a recruiting booth. We ended up getting this tent that says LaPorte Slicers and U.S. Army National Guard on it.
Mhm.
And that came from this distributor who made it and then sent it out. It was all in house. So obviously they make other things too. And when that came in the, it's like a 10 by 10 tent. So it comes in this big duffel bag thing. And when I opened the duffel bag up to unpack it, set it up, figure out how it went together, that kind of thing, so we could use it during games, there was a bag in there that looked like it might be spare parts. So it was a plastic Amazon bag. So I just opened it up and thinking anything of it. And I open it up and I'm looking through it and it's got a like an invoice label on it that's different from the tent.
Mhm.
And in the bag, there's a bunch of Speedos with a pirate's head on the butt. And it said like San Fernando swim or something like that. And each of those Speedos had a name on them. Well, we contacted the company, they never got back to us, so we couldn't like get them back to them. Well, one of the names on the Speedos was one of the last names of the kids that we have on our team. So what I did was he was being cocky the day before, so he was in the training room, and I go and grab that Speedo with his last name on it. I walk in the training room and I have it out like this, and there's girls and the trainer girls are in the training room with a bunch of other players getting taped and whatever. And I said, Isaiah, what is this? And it's got his last name on it, so he can't deny it. His face turned bright red, and he was super embarrassed. He couldn't explain it. He'd never seen it before. Um, oh yeah, he was fit to be tied. That was pretty funny.
That's hilarious. That's actually one of the wildest things I've seen. What's the most Slicers moment in recent history?
Um, I have to say, New Prairie 23. Um, so I got the job in 23 on June 1st,
Mhm.
and it was really late in the game. You got to set up an offense, defense, special teams. You got to get the roster together. You got camp. You got this. You got that.
Mhm.
Um, all of us really just dug in, and we were just like, I was the interim, so we were just trying to get the team on the field and get out and get ready to go play. And I'd been reading, the months leading up to that, and just hearing the chatter from people in the community about how we weren't going to score a touchdown or New Prairie was going to beat us by 100. I heard that once. Um, I just heard all of this stuff that there's no way in hell we're going to win this game.
Right.
And, it had just so happened to also be the 10th anniversary. That year was the 10th anniversary of Jake West passing in LaPorte. Jake West was a football player we had at LaPorte.
Mhm.
Jake wore the number 26. Jake passed away at practice of a cardiovascular event. And he it was the 10th anniversary of that. So we had planned a dedication ceremony. We called it the Jake West Legacy Ceremony for that evening. We had
Mhm.
two jerseys made up. Julie West, who's his mother, big part of our family, comes in, and we did that all for her, and there was standing room only in the crowd. How the Slicer was going to be this year. New Prairie was coming off of a state championship appearance, so
Mhm.
um, this was, one of the most David and Goliath gritty kind of games that I've ever been a part of. Well, we get to playing, and it was a slugfest from start to finish. It was tit for tat. It was we'd score, they'd score. We'd get a stop, they'd get a stop. They'd make a big play, we'd respond. It was back and forth all game. Well, it came down to the stretch, and we had less than a minute on the clock, and we had a really good kicker that year by the name of Jack Doty. And Jack is actually kicking in college right now, and he goes to Indiana Wesleyan. Um, he, uh, I just we were down. I think it was 17 to, or sorry, it was was 18-17 them. They score with like 42 seconds left on the clock. And it kind of took the wind out of the sails of everybody. That whole last drive, they're just pounding the ball right down our throat, killing time, 4-minute offense, just holding the ball, first down, first down, first down. Finally, they pop it in with 42 seconds left. Then they kick off to us. We get a decent return. And we just let our quarterback, Aiden Penslow, go to work. And he hit probably two. It was fourth and I want to say 4th and 15. And we ran a double pass because why the hell not? Like we have yeah. So we complete it for a big gain. And we hurry up, we spike the ball. There's about 20 some seconds left on the clock. Our offensive coordinator at the time was Grant Seberg. He's now at Valpo. He called a tremendous final drive, and he called a fade ball to little Ollie Crane, who's about 5'6", 5'7" on a good day.
Mm-hmm.
And Aiden drops back, and he stared it down the whole way. And Ollie runs this fade route perfectly to the sideline. He's leaking. Aiden throws a beautiful ball. Ollie jumps about 7 feet. I'm not even joking. Like this little kid jumps up and he goes up and he gets that ball. And he comes down inside like the 10-yard line. We're definitely in Jack Doty's field goal range now because Jack could make it from 44. So we're inside the 10-yard line. We go up, we spike it, we clock it. The crowd's going nuts because we just put together this improbable series of plays.
Right.
So we got about, I want to say there was probably 7 or 8 seconds left on the clock at that point. We didn't even want to mess around. We ran one play to like center. It called our last timeout. We tried the field goal unit out with Jack, and we had a good snap. We had a good hold. And we did not protect this punt at all, or this kick at all. It should have been blocked. Matter of fact, I don't know how it wasn't to this day. Both wings do not step down. So both wings just opened up and let the 2 edge rushers in scot-free. The ball goes between the dude's hands, right between it. And it goes right square through the middle of the uprights. We take the lead 20-18. We have like 5 seconds on the clock, and we had to cover a kick. It was like we won the Super Bowl, and the crowd went bananas. I'm yelling, I'm running up and down the sideline like the game's not over. We got to go cover this kick. So Jack gets up there for the kickoff, and we squib it down, and they tried to do the pitchy woo woo thing, and we ended up getting them on the ground. Game over. Slicers win. This David and Goliath absolute slugfest on Play for Jake Knight. And that when I say there's magic in Kiwanis Field, there's magic in Kiwanis Field. And unless you've seen it and been a part of it, something like that, where that ball, if we kick that ball 1,000 times, it's blocked 999. And that one time, in that one game, in that one moment, it went right square between the kid's hands, and we win the game. And we got the kids got the jug for the first time in 5 years, and it was the first game I've ever been a head coach. I was sick as a dog the night before because I was so nervous. That to me was like, this is why we do it. This is why I'm here.
Wow, Coach, that's an inspiring story. Now that like made my heart feel great. Coach, I want to thank you again for coming on. I really appreciate it. I'm Brian Jones. He's Coach Austin Epple. Thank you for listening.